Fireworks at Mwilu's trial. Deputy Chief Justice lawyers reject an independent prosecutor, prompting the Director of Public Prosecutions to demand the two senators cease representing her in a criminal case that has caused a storm. So a lot of back and forth between the defense and the prosecution. The defense saying where are his papers to operate locally because he is foreign counsel. And on the other side, the prosecution saying, well, these two senators, James Orengo, have a conflict of interest because they were on the same committee that was looking into the DCJ's case and allegations. So what do you make of this? He was on Citizen TV last night defending his presence in the country and the fact that he was being brought on the case, saying that the DPP brought the required paperwork to allow him to operate and to prosecute the case. Honorable Kira, let me bring you in first.
Well, first of all, as senators, I don't think we'll have to stop them under the guise that there's conflict of interest, because they can all cease to be senators, though that because lawyers are allowed to practice despite the fact that unless they're in government as ministers. So the two senators have within their jurisdiction to operate as lawyers for any individual, both in government or out of government. The other issue is that I don't think they have rejected Qureshi per se. What they are saying is that let us be sure that every documentation has been done. And I think it is useful for the case and also useful for posterity. Because listening to Qureshi last night, it was very clear that all things have been done except he's not been given the certificate for purposes of being seen to be practicing in Kenya. And I think that is a requirement that all of us as Kenyans, we need to be open. Given the fact that there are many jobs which are under threat, there are many companies merging, and therefore that very space, while we need justice to be done in a way that transparency is amplified, we also need to be sure that whoever is coming to do anything in Kenya is doing within the law.
No, absolutely. And Honorable Wangari, a lot of concerns raised that do we have competent prosecutors within the country to be able to handle such cases? Why did we have to bring in an outsider to handle such a high-profile case?
I think if you look at this case, it's not just your ordinary case, first of all. In fact, the DCJ is really the second in command in judiciary. So it's not just a normal, ordinary case. And there is nothing illegal in terms of bringing an independent prosecutor. But the most important thing is for the DPP to follow the law, for the requirements that are supposed to have been achieved before Qureshi is allowed in the courtroom. And I say that because even Kenyans get these high-profile jobs outside there. And you can't just get out there and practice without having the proper paperwork. In fact, you won't be allowed in court. So I feel the lawyers, Orengo and Okongo Mogeni, in terms of raising the objections. But when I saw Qureshi on media last night, I think I would expect more to come from the DPP first. He should actually just go quiet for a while, just let the DPP be able to defend his position. And that is exactly what he was doing the previous day in the Senate, because he had been summoned by a Senate committee to actually answer these questions. I also expect that whereas Orengo and Okongo are practicing lawyers, that they would play their role as parliamentarians if there is an issue, because Parliament has the access to information from Article 125 of the Constitution. They can ask for any evidence, even in camera, if need be, to be able to clarify that something is on point. So what the prosecution is also saying is something we must also consider, that you don't use your privilege in Parliament to bring to the courtroom. There has to really be a balance. There is nothing illegal for senators to practice in court, but the balance must be clear, so that there is no conflict of interest, because you can use your position as a parliamentarian to extract information that you tomorrow use in court. So it really is a tough balance, and I feel the prosecution, when they say there has to be a clear conflict of interest issue dealt with, because that would easily arise.
Understood, but we can't come away from the fact that the office of the DPP still is dealing with a shortage of prosecutors. They had put out advertisements for special prosecutors, 19 of them, only 3 of the candidates were able to meet the threshold, which is concerning when you think about it, Honorable Kirwa.
Yeah, it's concerning and also worrying at the same time, Because at the end of the day, if I'm accused of a certain crime, you know, the onus is not on me to prove my innocence. It is for the due process to be expedited, such that at the end of the day, I'm either acquitted or convicted, whichever is the case. Because it is also unfair to Kenyans, because there are many people who have been accused, and I'm in no way saying that they are innocent. I'm only saying that the shortage of capacity on the office of the DPP is an infringement on the rights of the individuals that have been accused. And therefore, we expect the government to speed up some of these processes, to improve the capacity, not only in terms of prosecutors, but in terms of also quality investigators, so that by the time you prefer charges against an individual, you are sure that you can easily get a conviction. And in that case, you know, you make things easier for us. Right. Otherwise, this corruption issue is going to be a charade. People will say, no, we are being accused because we come from certain political persuasion or certain communities, because ethnicity in Kenya is something that is very easy to wipe and create an uproar out of nothing. So my take is that we advise the office of the DPP to go slow on some of the issues, also to be off camera for some time for purposes of getting information, such that when you take somebody to court, let it be with some strong evidence that you can get conviction and also recovery of assets.
And beyond looking at the quality of prosecutors, there's also concern within the office of the DPP of retaining prosecutors. Many of them have left because they find remuneration is not sufficient enough. So they also need to deal with some administrative issues within.
I agree totally, because you know, just having a new DPP does not overhaul the system. It's changing the head does not just change the whole system. There are people who have been there for years. DPPs come and go, but I know that the burden for the DPP is not small. In fact, the pronunciations, like Honorable Kira is saying, if you say that Victoria has been accused of this and this, you must really have enough evidence, because what Kenyans don't want, and I know what the president doesn't want, is that you name very many people, you bring the names to parliament, then out of those, not even a percentage of 10% is convicted. I mean, we have done it before. We have said all the procurement officers step aside. How many now have come back quietly? Because there was really no evidence, and the lifestyle audits have not yielded fruits. Because otherwise, then will be just musical chairs. This corruption issue will just be musical chairs that you can be mentioned and you get away, and you move forward, and you get back to your work, and everything continues. But another thing that, apart from the remuneration and the working conditions that we must look at, the DPP must seriously think about, is also the security of the prosecutors. Because, I mean, we've seen lawyers just being kidnapped, killed. I mean, it's something that is also something that sends shivers. So it will also attract less people because of the high-profile nature of the case. Because the higher it is, the more enemies you'll have. And if you get yourself out there, you're also at a risk in terms of your security. So it also must be beefed up. He must work closely with the IG and the DCIs to make sure that their security, even of these prosecutors, whether foreign or whether Kenyan, is guaranteed.